Boruto Chapter 13 just teased the Otsutsuki God Shibai, and no one is ready for this mega twist. Right when Jura was about to kill the prodigy, he got interrupted by Mamushi, as wasting another moment meant saying goodbye to Hidari. So for some reasons, reviving Hidari was more important than killing the ultimate threat. We shouldn't forget the Shinjus raising the possibility for Boruto's teammate, and killing him would mean his partner would never be found. Well, whether it was for the sake of Hidari or to catch Kashin Koji in the future, nothing compares to the weight of the foreshadowing made by Jura in this single statement. Boruto avoiding death is compared to divine intervention, and if you know how Kishimoto likes to plan plot twists, that you must have known if you regularly visit my channel, then you must be knowing why this line is a straight reference to Shibai or Otsutsuki. Well, there are a number of ways for us to understand what this means for the future of the story, but before we get there, let's figure out why it's very likely for this statement to be a reference to the Otsutsuki God. The first hint comes from the later part of this chapter, which mentions Shibai Otsutsuki for the first time in almost 2 years. We get to know some more Amado lore and how he used his genius brain to modify every Kara cyborg with the cells of Shibai. Well, it was something really obvious, at least in case of Code, who was shown to wield a Shinjutsu that isn't used by any known Otsutsuki in the verse. But the reveal of other cyborgs also possessing the genes of Shibai has opened a really interesting possibility. Koji, Delta and Boro were also modified with Shibai's cells, the twist being they did not unlock any godly powers instantly. Now that Boro is dead and Koji did unlock a Shinjutsu later in the story, it's highly plausible for Delta to also awaken a never before seen divine technique. Now either she would unlock some Shinjutsu as foreshadowed by Koji's awakening of prescience, or maybe it's actually a luck based probability for someone to unlock Shibai's powers with his cells, explaining why Boro never awakened any such divine technique and Delta may be bound to face the same fate. I have an interesting theory for Delta's future role that I would catch up on later in the video. Coming back to Shibai Otsutsuki and his divine connection to Boruto, I feel that his relatedness to the prodigy is essentially natural, while his potential connection to Amado is artificial. Let me explain. Amado has access to Shibai's remains that he somehow used to modify his cyborgs, but Boruto is literally protected by the deity from heavens, and even his transformation and dojutsu are similar to Shibai. This means Amado is using Shibai's cells in his favor, while the Otsutsuki God himself is using Boruto for some greater purpose. This would make sense in a moment, but before that, let's put some light on another major hint, teasing the subtle connection between Amado and Shibai. When the scientist mentioned the abilities of Eida, he called them the powers to make anyone her captive, which was pretty lame, considering why Shibai would have an ability to attract anyone towards him, unless you see it in another angle, where the Otsutsuki God desiring worship could have been the base for Eida's enchantment power. But this theory did not last long after omnipotence was unveiled, explaining the reality of Eida's charm. This godly power is what manifested Eida's desires to be loved into an alluring aura type of ability. Now here comes the huge hint, which has almost confirmed the lies of Amado. Kashin Koji referred to Eida's powers as godlike abilities, unlike Amado, who covered up her godly technique by calling it an enchantment power. Moreover, the source of Koji's knowledge is obviously Amado, meaning that the scientist himself told his cyborg that Eida has unlocked some godly power. A thing that you can point here is that Koji had no information about Eida's omnipotence power, but he was aware about the aftermath. This means Amado did not reveal this power by name to him, maybe because he himself did not know about it. But one thing is clear, that he knew her powers are beyond the alluring charm. Coincidentally, Koji did not refer to Eida's powers as enchantment or charm, which again proves that Amado has used this narrative in front of Konoha to cover up the real deal that Eida had awakened. Furthermore, the fact that Amado has kept so many things hidden from the village is already too suspicious. He's planning something big that no one is ready for, and it involves the cells of Shibai. I think this setup would come really handy plot-wise in the future. It holds the power of the most broken character whose jutsus are literally carrying the story right now. So what if he has modified himself with Shibai's cells too? It's a massive possibility, as Eida stated Amado has modified his eyes with scientific ninja tech. While in the context of this conversation, Amado modifying his eyes was just a way for him to conveniently cooperate with the code that he has implanted into his cyborg. For example, the limiters of code and the encoded message to deactivate Kawaki. This proves that he's completely fine with modifying his body with scientific ninja tech, meaning that he could have injected the cells of Shibai in his body as well. Not to mention, Amado means beloved by God, which makes his connection to Shibai even more interesting. So could it be that he's involved with the god of Otsutsuki in some way? The way he's playing his cards, I think it's a really plausible possibility. He wants to revive his daughter through an artificial karma seal, and Kawaki has already raised the possibility of Akebi turning into an Otsutsuki. So what if Amado is trying to turn Shibai Otsutsuki into a semi-divine creature whose existence is simultaneous, meaning that he would exist as both a god as well as a mortal? There are many mythological stories of gods existing simultaneously as a deity and a mortal, but looking at the schemes of the scientist, it's also possible that he is trying to clone Shibai Otsutsuki in the body of Akebi. Not just that, if you look at all the possible futures that Koji foresaw, there wasn't any single future where Amado's daughter was revived. This means even if Boruto had died, Kawaki would have never helped Amado due to the possibility of Akebi turning into an Otsutsuki. Now there are two ways for me to explain why Koji did not foresaw Amado's daughter getting revived. The first possibility comes from the drawback of his prescience Shinjus. It can't be a full-fledged broken power that would let the user see all the possible outcomes. There should be some flaw that hasn't been revealed yet. Looking at how Eida's Senringan works, she cannot see the past beyond the date of her birth. So what if Koji cannot see the future beyond the day when he will die? This explains why he wasn't able to tell Boruto about Kawaki's fateful turnover that we have already seen in the prologue sequence. Kashin Koji is dead in the only possible outcome. It could be a doing of Jura and gang who want to destroy the person who's acting as an informer to Boruto, or it could be Kawaki himself fulfilling the massive prophecy of Ishiki with Koji dying just like Jiraiya by the chakra rods. Now this is something that I have already discussed, but the next theory is something that promotes the mastermind narrative of Amado. What if he programmed the glimpses of future that Koji saw, which is why there is no mention of his daughter? It's actually plausible considering the hologram theory where Ishiki came to code to reveal his will. This whole sequence could have been modified into code by Amado using a technique known as arbitrary code execution. The way he reacted after the Ishiki sequence also hints at the same thing. He could be hallucinating code using ACE so that he gets motivated enough to do something. Not to mention he has modified his eyes with scientific ninja tools. So what if he can see through the lenses of all his cyborgs? This possibility is half confirmed as Amado was shown to look at Kawaki through the eyes of Delta. Now what's hidden from Konoha and everyone is that he could actually use his eyes and goggles to keep an eye on what his cyborgs are looking at. This means he made the most calculated moves to get to his goal. But why would he need to awaken the Shinjus in order to get Akebi revived? Well, a theory that I think would explain it all is the secret reason behind Kawaki and Delta's team up. We know in order to revive Akebi, Amado will need Kawaki to put his karma on her clone, which is obviously Delta. Looking at how every possible future went, there is no way for Kawaki to obey Amado for any reason whatsoever. The only reason that could force Kawaki into implanting a karma on Delta is the do or die situation. And looking at how Boruto in the future sequence is all ready to destroy Kawaki, his last hope must be the resurrection arts of the karma seal. But little does he know when he's dropped down to his last resort, it would actually fulfill the master plan of Amado, with the revival of an Otsutsuki or let's say a godly clone of Shibai that Kawaki was concerned about. I see it as a huge possibility as well as a Kishimoto type of twist, with Kawaki holding the setup that would actually bring the real deal to life. Not to mention he may also be modified with Shibai's cells, so there is a good possibility for him to be the medium of the true massive threat. So the whole Shinju situation and the prologue sequence may be a decoy to the real deal, which lies in the palm of Kawaki. And once this divine clone will come to life, the prominent role of Boruto which is assigned to him by Shibai could also get unveiled. So now that we are aware of the pesky schemes of Amado that he may be using to replicate the powers of God Otsutsuki into his daughter, what could be the possible connection between Boruto and Shibai Otsutsuki, which was teased in the latest chapter? Well, going back to all the original hints, there is definitely something up with the prodigy and the god of this verse. What I believe the ultimate resolution of Boruto is going to be can be drawn from the Samurai 8 manga, which also had similar plot material. Fudomuyo is the Shibai of this verse, while Hachimaru is an equivalent of Boruto. So the prodigy of Kishimoto's current manga ending up like Hachimaru is also a possibility. Boruto could literally cross paths with Shibai at some point, possibly after failing to save Kawaki, and this is how I think things could play out. A complete rip-off version of Samurai 8 would be dull and boring, so the best way for Boruto to dive into the divine powers is to take on the will of an Otsutsuki just to evolve into a peerless existence. existence. After possibly failing to save Kawaki and the awakening of Amado's trump card, Boruto might find himself in a situation where he can no longer bring back his lost ones. There is no way to avoid casualties during Konoha destruction, and there is no possible way to bring the dead back. So the only way for Boruto to reverse the destruction and casualties would be the power of an Otsutsuki God. And to tap into those divine powers, he will need to eat as many chakra fruits as possible just to fulfill the will of an Otsutsuki and become a god. And once Boruto would evolve into such a peerless existence, he would most likely meet the other gods too, like Shibai and the ones who were foreshadowed by Mamushi. This is one of the possible theories for Boruto to cross paths with Shibai. Now let's discuss another possibility to understand why the Otsutsuki God may be saving Boruto from the heavens. I think a nature versus human type of plot twist will happen in the story very soon. Boruto, who's fighting against these modified and artificial creatures, will be backed by a literal god who's none other than Shibai Otsutsuki. He is guiding Boruto towards the light that will dispel the darkness which was formed due to the misuse of his mortal remains. Boruto's job could be to retrieve the divine cells and prevent their misuse, which is why he is being protected by Shibai from the heavens. Things like Boruto's jutsu styles, the way the Uzuhiko is portrayed, the horn on his head in Otsutsuki form, and also the Jogan. All of these things are similar to Shibai Otsutsuki, so the god Otsutsuki being the guiding force of Boruto for a greater purpose, which may even involve creating a new world. If this one gets destroyed, is a highly plausible possibility. You may be wondering about the Jogan and how Boruto is about to awaken it after all the new developments. Well, check out this video where I explain everything about the Pure Eye. Also, don't forget to subscribe to never miss another upload. I will see you next time.